Seoul changed its face at night. By the time the sun sank behind glass towers and concrete rooftops, the city softened, neon signs humming awake, cafes glowing like quiet refuges, the Han River breathing slowly beneath bridges strung with light. Han Joon-seo liked the city best at this hour. It felt honest then. Less hurried. Less demanding. He lingered outside a small bookstore in Hongdae, hands tucked into the pockets of his coat, pretending to reread a message he already knew by heart. I'm nearby. Are you still there? Min-jae. Joon-seo's chest tightened, the familiar mix of warmth and unease settling deep beneath his ribs. Kang Min-jae was always nearby. Always orbiting, never colliding. Close enough to feel, never close enough to touch. Yes, Joon-seo murmured to himself, locking the phone and slipping it away. I'm still here. Min-jae arrived as he always did, quietly as if he had been part of the street all along. He wore a dark coat, neatly pressed, hair untouched by the wind despite the chill. He looked composed in a way that made people straighten unconsciously when he entered a room. Sorry, Min-jae said, though he never sounded sorry. His voice was low, steady. Work ran late. Joon-seo smiled anyway. It's fine. I was just browsing. Min-jae's eyes flicked to the bookstore window, then back to Joon-seo's face. He studied him too closely sometimes, as if memorizing details he feared might disappear. They began walking without discussing where they were going. They rarely did. Their steps fell into sync naturally, shoulders almost brushing, a careful distance maintained by instinct rather than intention. You didn't have to wait, Min-jae said. I wanted to. The words slipped out too easily. Joon-seo felt them linger between them, heavy with meaning. Min-jae's jaw tightened, not enough for anyone else to notice, but Joon-seo always noticed. He noticed everything. They passed street vendors closing for the night, the scent of roasted chestnuts and sweet bread hanging in the air. A bus roared past, momentarily drowning out conversation. Silence followed, thick but not uncomfortable. It rarely was. Min-jae had a way of listening even when nothing was being said. Did you eat? Min-jae asked. Joon-seo shook his head. Not really. Then we should. We should. The words felt intimate, though they were harmless. Everything with Min-jae felt like that, innocent phrases layered with unspoken things. They ended up at a small tteokbokki stall tucked beneath an overpass, plastic chairs scattered unevenly on the pavement. The woman running it greeted Min-jae by name, which shouldn't have surprised Joon-seo, but did anyway. You come here often, Joon-seo said as they sat. Only when I need to think. And tonight? Min-jae met his gaze, silvered streetlight catching in his eyes. Especially tonight. Joon-seo's breath stuttered. He looked away quickly, focusing on the steam rising from the pot between them. He told himself not to read into it. He told himself that Min-jae spoke like this to everyone. He never quite believed it. They ate slowly, knees brushing beneath the table. Each accidental touch sent a quiet shock through Joon-seo's body. Min-jae never reacted outwardly, but his hand always stilled afterward, fingers curling just slightly. You've been quieter lately, Min-jae said after a while. Have I? Yes. Joon-seo laughed softly. I didn't realize you were keeping track. I notice, Min-jae replied. Then more carefully, you matter. The city noise blurred around them. Joon-seo felt the words settle somewhere deep, dangerous and hopeful all at once. Min-jae, he began, then stopped. Min-jae waited. He always did. Joon-seo wanted to say so many things. That the space between them felt like a held breath. That every look felt intentional. That he was tired of pretending his heart wasn't already leaning forward. Instead he said, it's cold. Min-jae nodded, eyes darkening with something unreadable. He removed his scarf and, after a moment's hesitation, draped it around Joon-seo's neck. His fingers brushed Joon-seo's skin, warm and steady. There, he said quietly. Better. Joon-seo swallowed. The scarf smelled faintly of Min-jae, clean, subtle, familiar in a way that hurt. They walked again, this time toward the river. The Han stretched out before them, calm and reflective, lights rippling across its surface. Couples passed by, hands intertwined, laughter soft in the night. Joon-seo stopped near the railing. Min-jae stopped too, as if tethered. Do you ever want more? Joon-seo asked suddenly. Min-jae's posture stiffened. More? Than this? Joon-seo said, gesturing vaguely between them. Then almost. The word hung there, fragile. For a long moment, Min-jae said nothing. His gaze fixed on the river, jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides. Joon-seo braced himself, heart pounding too loud. Yes, Min-jae said at last. The word was barely audible. I do. Relief flooded Joon-seo so fast it almost made him dizzy. Then why? But wanting, Min-jae interrupted, turning to face him fully now, doesn't mean I should take. The warmth drained away, replaced by something sharp and aching. I don't understand, Joon-seo whispered. Min-jae stepped back, just one step, but it felt like a mile. There are things you don't see. Things that could hurt you. I get to decide that, Joon-seo said, voice trembling. Min-jae's expression cracked then just for a second. Desire burned unmistakably in his eyes, raw and restrained. He reached out, stopping just short of touching Joon-seo's hand. That's exactly why I can't, he said. Silence fell between them, heavier than before. Min-jae lowered his hand. I should go. Oh, Joon-seo breathed. He nodded, forcing composure. Okay. Min-jae hesitated as if wanting to say more. Instead he said, get home safely. He turned and walked away, his steps measured, controlled, never once looking back. Joon-seo remained by the river long after, scarf clutched in his hands, heart aching with everything that had been spoken and everything that hadn't. For the first time he understood. He was desired. And just as surely, denied. Distance had a sound. For Han Joon-seo, it was the hollow click of his phone screen lighting up without Min-jae's name appearing. It was the echo of footsteps behind him that never caught up. It was the polite, measured tone Min-jae now used, careful enough to wound without ever cutting openly. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then a week. When Min-jae finally texted, it was brief. Have you been well? No apology. No explanation. Joon-seo stared at the message for a long time before replying. I've been fine. It was a lie, but one he had learned to tell well. They met again by accident, or at least that was what Min-jae called it, outside a cafe near Joon-seo's office. The winter air was sharp, biting through layers of wool and resolve. Joon-seo noticed immediately how Min-jae stood farther away than usual, hands clasped behind his back like a man keeping himself in check. You look tired, Min-jae said. So do you, Joon-seo replied. Min-jae smiled faintly, the kind he used in meetings and formal gatherings. Not the one he used by the river. Can we talk? Joon-seo asked. Min-jae hesitated. Here? Anywhere, Joon-seo said. Just, honestly. They sat inside the cafe, warmth pressing in from all sides. Steam curled from untouched cups between them. Joon-seo watched Min-jae carefully, noting every controlled breath, every flicker of restraint. You've been avoiding me, Joon-seo said quietly. I've been busy. With me, Joon-seo said. Specifically. Min-jae looked away. The silence stretched, thin and uncomfortable. I told you before, Min-jae said at last. There are things. That could hurt me, Joon-seo finished. His voice shook despite his effort to steady it. You said that. But you never say what those things are. Min-jae's fingers tightened around his cup. Because naming them makes them real. And leaving me guessing doesn't? Min-jae exhaled slowly. Joon-seo. Do you want me? The question slipped out, raw and exposed. Min-jae froze. The cafe noise faded into a dull hum. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and relentless. Yes, Min-jae said, voice low. I do. Joon-seo's chest ached. Then why are you pushing me away? Because wanting isn't the same as choosing, Min-jae said, meeting his gaze at last. And I won't choose you if I can't protect you. Joon-seo laughed brittle. Protect me from what? Yourself. Min-jae flinched. Do you know what this feels like? Joon-seo continued, unable to stop now. Being looked at like you're something precious but never allowed to be held? Min-jae stood abruptly. This was a mistake. Which part? Joon-seo asked, standing too. Wanting me? Or admitting it? Min-jae's eyes burned, but his voice stayed calm, too calm. I won't cross this line. Then say it, Joon-seo demanded. Say you don't feel anything. Say I imagined it. Min-jae's jaw clenched. His silence was answer enough. I can't, he said. Joon-seo nodded slowly, heart-breaking in precise, measured cracks. That's worse. They parted without another word. After that, the distance became official. Min-jae stopped calling. When they crossed paths at mutual gatherings, he greeted Joon-seo with perfect politeness. Respectful, distant, untouchable. Others noticed nothing unusual. Only Joon-seo saw the tension in Min-jae's shoulders, the way his gaze lingered before turning away. At night, Joon-seo replayed everything. The scarf. The river. The confession that had never been allowed to finish. He told himself to let go. He failed every time. Weeks passed. Winter deepened. Seoul wrapped itself in cold steel skies and frozen sidewalks. Joon-seo filled his days with work, with friends, with noise. Still, Min-jae haunted the quiet moments. Then came the night Joon-seo decided to end it. He sent one message. "Let's meet. I need closure." Min-jae replied almost immediately. "I don't think that's wise." Joon-seo's hands trembled as he typed. "Then this is goodbye." There was no response. The next morning, Joon-seo boarded a train out of the city just for the day. He needed space, real distance, not the half measures Min-jae offered. He walked unfamiliar streets, breathed air untouched by memory, tried to imagine a life where Min-jae was just another name. It didn't work. When he returned that evening, exhausted and hollow, his phone buzzed. "Where are you?" "Min-jae." Joon-seo closed his eyes. "Does it matter?" He replied. Pause. "Then. It does." Junio laughed softly, tears blurring his vision. "You don't get to want me from a distance anymore," he typed. "I'm done waiting." Minutes passed. "Then. I understand." That was it. No plea. No explanation. Just acceptance. Something inside Joon-seo finally snapped, not loudly but completely. He deleted Min-jae's contact. Removed the scarf from his coat pocket where he had kept it like a talisman. He placed it carefully on a park bench near the river, folded neatly, and walked away. The wind carried the city's breath around him. Neon lights flickered on. Life continued. Behind him, unseen, Min-jae stood at the edge of the park, staring at the empty bench, his scarf abandoned like a confession too late to save. For the first time, denial tasted bitter. And loneliness had a name. Kang Min-jae had always believed control was strength. It was the discipline that had shaped his life. The careful choices, the lines never crossed, the desires contained so tightly they became background noise. Control kept things intact. Predictable. Safe. Until Joon-seo disappeared. Not dramatically. Not with accusations or tears. Just gone. No messages. No familiar footsteps beside him on late nights. No quiet presence lingering at the edge of Min-jae's awareness. The absence was worse than any confrontation. Min-jae returned to the park by the Han River every evening for a week, as if repetition might rewind time. The bench remained empty. The scarf was gone. Junio had taken his warmth back with him. Min-jae told himself this was for the best. He told himself that love left unguarded could ruin them both. He told himself many lies. Sleep became elusive. Food tasted like obligation. Meetings blurred together, his reputation for calm efficiency cracking at the edges. Colleagues began to notice. "You're distracted," his sister said over dinner one night, studying him with a familiarity no one else dared. "That's new." "I'm fine." She snorted. "You haven't been fine in weeks. Did you finally realize you're human?" Min-jae didn't answer. That night, he stood on his balcony, soul stretched beneath him in endless light, and admitted the truth he had been avoiding. He had already lost Joon-seo. And it was unbearable. He found him by accident, or perhaps this time on purpose. 2 weeks later at a bookstore near 81. Min-jae froze the moment he saw him. Joon-seo looked different. Not broken. Just steadier. His hair was slightly longer, his coat unfamiliar. He stood by a shelf, smiling softly at something on his phone. Min-jae's chest tightened. He took a step forward. Then another. Joon-seo looked up. Their eyes met. The shock on Joon-seo's face faded quickly, replaced by composure so complete it hurt more than anger ever could. "Min-jae," he said politely. "Hello." "Joon-seo," Min-jae replied, voice rough. "Can we talk?" Joon-seo considered him for a long moment. "I have plans." "I'll walk with you," Min-jae said. "Just until the corner." Pause. Then a nod. "Fine." They walked side by side, the old rhythm trying and failing to reassert itself. The space between them was deliberate now, measured in unspoken boundaries. "You look well," Min-jae said. "I am," Joon-seo replied. "I learned how." Min-jae swallowed. "I was wrong." Joon-seo stopped walking. "You don't get to say that casually." "I know," Min-jae said, turning to face him fully. "That's why I'm saying it now." Joon-seo's eyes searched his face, wary. "Say what you mean." Min-jae took a breath he had been holding for months. "I chose fear over honesty. I told myself it was to protect you, but it was really to protect myself." Silence stretched. "You denied me," Junio said quietly. "Over and over." "Yes," Min-jae said. "And I don't expect forgiveness." "Then why are you here?" "Because I can't pretend wanting you from a distance is enough anymore," Min-jae said, voice steady despite the storm inside him. And I won't touch you without your consent, without clarity. Joon-seo's throat bobbed. You don't get to take things now just because you're ready. I know, Min-jae said. That's why I'm asking. Taking, Joon-seo said softly, isn't asking. Min-jae nodded. Then let me rephrase. He stepped back, deliberately giving Joon-seo space. I want to choose you, Min-jae said. Openly, slowly, without hiding. But only if you want to be chosen. The city breathed around them. Cars passed. Laughter echoed from a nearby street. Joon-seo looked away, hands clenched. You hurt me. I know. You made me feel like desire was something shameful. I'm sorry, Min-jae said. I was wrong. Joon-seo turned back. His eyes were bright but steady. If I say no? Min-jae didn't hesitate. Then I walk away. Completely. That honesty, unadorned, unforced, hit harder than any confession. Walk with me, Joon-seo said after a moment. They moved again, this time toward the river. Night had fallen fully, lights dancing across the water. The same place where everything had begun to fracture. I won't be hidden, Joon-seo said. I won't be almost. You won't, Min-jae promised. And we go slowly, Joon-seo added. At my pace. Min-jae nodded. Always. Joon-seo stopped by the railing and turned. Then, you can take my hand. Min-jae hesitated, not from fear but from reverence. Then he reached out, fingers brushing Joon-seo's. When Joon-seo didn't pull away, Min-jae closed the distance, their hands fitting together naturally. The contact was electric, not desperate, not consuming. Just right. This doesn't mean everything is fixed, Joon-seo said. I know, Min-jae replied. It means everything begins. They stood there, hand in hand, not as a secret or a promise too big to keep, but as two people choosing each other in real time. For the first time, Min-jae didn't pull back. Carefully. And Joon-seo let him. Spring arrived in Seoul without ceremony. One day the air no longer cut, and the next cherry blossoms loosened their grip and fell wherever they pleased. On sidewalks, on shoulders, on the quiet moments people thought no one was watching. Han Joon-seo noticed these things now. He noticed the way life softened when it was no longer lived in defense. He noticed most of all Kang Min-jae. They did not rush. That was the rule, spoken once, honored always. Their days unfolded in careful increments. Shared breakfasts that ended in laughter instead of longing, evening walks where hands brushed before intertwining, conversations that stretched deep into the night without urgency to arrive anywhere else. Min-jae learned how to wait. It surprised him how natural it felt once he stopped resisting it. Waiting was no longer restraint, it was devotion. Every glance he stole of Joon-seo felt earned, not taken. Every smile was a gift, not a victory. Joon-seo noticed too. You're different, he said one evening as they sat on the steps near the Han River, shoes kicked off, toes brushing. Min-jae tilted his head. Better or worse? Braver, Joon-seo replied. Quieter but braver. Min-jae smiled at that, small and sincere. So are you. Joon-seo laughed. I'm just no longer afraid to be seen. They learned each other in ordinary ways. Min-jae discovered Joon-seo drank his coffee too sweet and read the endings of books first when he was anxious. Joon-seo learned Min-jae slept better when someone was nearby, even if they never touched, and that he hummed unconsciously when he cooked. Intimacy grew from these truths, not from urgency but from presence. One night, rain caught them unprepared. They ran for shelter beneath a closed cafe awning, breathless and laughing, clothes damp, hair plastered to their foreheads. Stay, Min-jae said softly when the rain refused to stop. Joon-seo studied his face, searching for pressure, for hesitation. There was none. Okay, he said. Min-jae's apartment was warm and understated, just like him. They changed into dry clothes, separately, deliberately, and sat on opposite ends of the couch, the space between them charged but respected. You can come closer, Min-jae said after a while. If you want. Joon-seo did. They leaned together, shoulder to shoulder, warmth seeping through fabric and bone. Min-jae's breathing slowed. Joon-seo rested his head against Min-jae's arm. This, Joon-seo realized, was what safety felt like. Days turned into weeks. They faced the world together, slowly widening the circle of honesty. Friends noticed first, then coworkers. There were looks, some curious, some disapproving, but Min-jae never stepped away. When someone asked directly, Min-jae answered simply, he's with me. No qualifiers. No explanations. Joon-seo's chest ached every time. One evening, they returned to the bench where the scarf had once been left behind. The river flowed steadily, unchanged, as if it had been waiting for them. I thought I'd lost you here, Min-jae said. You did, Junio replied gently. But you found me again. Min-jae turned to him. Thank you for letting me. Junseo smiled. Thank you for asking. They kissed for the first time that night. It was unhurried, tentative, foreheads touching, breath mingling, lips brushing as if learning a language together. When Min-jae pulled back, searching Juneseo's face, Junseo nodded, heart steady. The kiss deepened, not with hunger but with trust. When they parted, Min-jae rested his forehead against Juneseo's. Still okay. More than okay, Junio whispered. Love settled into them like a promise kept daily, not declared once. There were still hard days. Doubts resurfaced. The world did not soften just because they had found each other. But now denial had no home between them. On a quiet morning, sunlight spilling through sheer curtains, Junio woke to Min-jae watching him. That's unsettling, Junio murmured sleepily. Min-jae smiled. I was thinking. Dangerous. Min-jae laughed softly. I was thinking how strange it is that something I feared so much feels like the safest thing I've ever known. Junseo reached for his hand. That's because you stopped fighting it. Min-jae squeezed back. Because you taught me how. They dressed, shared breakfast, and stepped out into the waking city together. Cherry blossoms drifted down, catching briefly in Juneseo's hair. Min-jae brushed them away with reverent care. They walked side by side, unhurried, unhidden. Desired without shame. Denied, no longer. Taken, not by force but by choice. And taken slowly enough to last.